following podcast contains real stories and raw conversations from first responders and military personnel. Some topics may be graphic or triggering. The views expressed by the host and the guests are their own and do not represent any agency or organization. Viewer discretion is advised.
All right. Well, welcome to Beyond the Dispatch, man. We love to have you here. This is Dave. You've been a firefighter for how many years?
Well, 28.
28 years.
And one day. So you work the one day, that gives you credit for 29 years.
Oh, fuck.
I don't know why.
Power move.
You tier 2 guys or
Yeah.
tier 1 guys.
Yeah, oh yeah. So my lucky number's 29. So I'm like, hell yeah.
Let's go,
Let's
baby.
do that. So 28 in one day gave me 29 years. Retired on my birthday.
Hell yeah.
So, of course, the firehouse they said you're getting one cake. You're either getting a birthday cake or a retirement cake. You're not getting two cakes.
They couldn't like split in half, like happy birthday, happy retirement.
Yeah, right? No, they couldn't spell all that together. So, yeah, they had to make it really easy, you know. So, yeah, 29 years.
Love it.
Don't even know what happened.
Like a blink of an eye.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like children, you know, when you they just they're just born, you know, they're 2 years old, 3 years old. You're like, holy crap, like slow down. And then it just keeps going.
People warned me and they're like, yeah, it's going to go. And the last day in the firehouse, I'm like, I'm actually done. What am I going to do now?
How surreal.
Yeah. What am I going to do now?
Right. What were you thinking at the time?
I don't know. I mean, that's like, well, how did you figure out when you were going to retire? I said, honestly, 29 years, my lucky number, on October 29th, my birthday. Let's do it.
Hell yeah.
And that was it. They're like, that was it. I'm like, that was it.
Meant to be.
Yeah. So it wasn't nothing, too technical. It was just, let's do it.
Let's do it, baby.
Yeah. So here I am. Now I'm living through my kids.
And you have three children, correct?
3 children. My oldest, Nick, is with Oak Lawn Fire. Hallie is with Chicago Fire. And my youngest, Luke, is with Tinley.
Wow.
So, just watching them do their thing.
And your dad was a firefighter, too.
My dad had started, I believe, in 73. He was at Engine 18's house across from St. Ignatius.
Okay.
So he hated corned beef, and that was your traditional Saturday meal.
Yeah.
And he would drag me, and I was 10 years old. And he would drag me to the firehouse. I had my own boots.
Oh, my God.
Emptied garbage cans and sat there and watched American Bandstand and ate corned beef all day long.
So is that what hooked you?
No, I don't know. It should have. This should have been easy.
So what hooked you to the fire department then?
This is one of those questions I can't answer.
Kind of just like, it felt like that's just your path in general, or you always just knew?
No, I needed money.
And
that's not, that's not how you should do this, I think, now.
Right.
High school, you go to the career counselor and you fill out a sheet of paper and
right.
He puts it in the magic machine and it tells you what you're supposed to be. And he goes, I got nothing.
No way.
He goes, I would just probably do military. Get out of my office.
Oh, perfect.
So I did that and ended up doing some about 10 years in the graphic arts, putting 1-ton rolls of paper on a printing press.
Okay.
Took the fire department test came up, and my dad said, I want you to take this. So
how old were you at the time?
I don't even know.
Okay.
I was old enough to drink because the night before the test, my buddies came home from college, and that got a little interesting.
Hell yeah.
So going to the test, and got pulled over by the police.
Uh-huh.
And they looked at the floorboard on the passenger side, and there was about 1,000 shot glasses in there because my buddies decided every time we did a shot, they're going to put them in the pocket of the coats.
Tactically
so
acquiring.
He looked at the shot glasses, and he's like, well, that's a lot of paperwork. Just go on your way.
George, stay between the lines, buddy.
Yeah. He said, where are you going? Because evidently I was in a bad neighborhood.
CPD?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to take the fire test. And he goes, ugh. Just go.
Just get out of here.
So I don't know. It was like a 4 or 5 hour test, and I took it in about 10 minutes.
Were you hungover? Oh God.
Went heavy on the C's, and I walked up to the proctor and I said, "I'm done." And he goes, "You only been here about 15 minutes."
This is a new record.
Yeah. He goes, "Go get fingerprinted and get the hell out of here."
No way.
Yeah. So didn't place very well.
Okay.
On that list, I was probably about 8-9 years out.
Right.
Doing the graphic arts thing, and finally they called.
No way.
And I said, well, here we go.
Let's go. Let's roll into it.
Figuring out how much money I was going to lose by walking away from this union graphic arts job.
Right.
But my dad bringing me to the firehouse, you'd think it would have been easy.
Yeah.
My direction to go right to it, and somewhere I got lost.
Yeah. Oh. Still found your way.
Yeah. So they had no problem picking on me as a 10-year-old at the firehouse.
Right.
They put eggs in my boots. So when I put my boots on, I pop the eggs, and I'd come home the next morning. My mom would say, "Where the hell's your socks at?" So, well, they put eggs in my boots. And
what's with you firemen?
I'm 10 years old. They didn't care how old you were.
Hazing 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
Hey, anything in the firehouse goes.
Nothing's off limits.
Yeah.
Nobody's off limits.
Absolutely.
Not even a 10-year-old kid.
And if you're off limits, that means you're not liked.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, right. If I'm not picking on you, I don't like you.
Right.
Which I've used that with my daughter's boyfriends and stuff over the years.
Oh, for sure.
The other time on my bed was next to the hole where you slide the pole.
Mm-hmm.
And they thought it was funny that if you put a big ball of newspaper on a pike pole and you light it and you put it next to my bed and I'm sleeping and you feel the heat on your face and wake up, there's this big ball of fire. They thought that was funny. So that was fine, because fast forward 20, 25 years, 30 years, I ran into some of those guys.
Oh, no way.
And I said, they're like, "Oh, I remember you. You used to stay at the firehouse with your dad." I said, "Yeah." I said, "And you used to pick on me as a 10-year-old.
Yeah. How do you feel now?
Now I'm going to rip your head off."
Yeah, let's go.
Well, I'm old. I'm like, I don't care.
Oh, no.
No, this is payback time.
Let's go.
So we had fun.
Oh, I love it.
It was crazy.
Now, you ran into them while you were a firefighter.
I ran into them at the academy. I went to the academy in 93.
Okay.
We weren't EMTs then, so the academy wasn't as long as it is now.
Right.
We had a guy die in class.
Oh, wow.
It just so happened that Backdraft came out right before I started the academy. So I'm like, this is easy. You can flames, and you just run through it and do your thing until they take you to Champaign, and they put you in the cans, and they light that stuff up with wet hay and pallets, and it's not like Backdraft. I'm like, whoa, wait a second here.
It's not like the movies.
No, not even close.
Hey, that's funny because, growing up, like, you see all these law enforcement movies and all these shows, and you're like, this is not how law enforcement is. I'm behind a desk 95% of the time typing this paper. Like, if I would have known this, I would have done another job.
Right? And they've never run out of bullets, so just shoot forever. I'm like, how do they do that?
Right. I'm like, I got 3 mags. That's it, buddy.
Yeah. And I'm trying to do a quick count of what I got left.
Can I get an ammo run real quick? Come on.
Right? I need a timeout.
So this is not like the movies.
No. So I learned that pretty fast. It's just amazing. Your body does things that you don't think right away.
Right.
I've gotten a couple jams where my body was running, and before I even thought about running, I'm like, I guess we're leaving.
Instinctively.
Yeah.
Fight or flight, baby. Let's go.
Oh, my goodness. So I learned a lot very quickly.
You don't have a choice.
Yeah. Oh, no. No, not at all.
I was like, when I went in the Coast Guard or when I went into law enforcement, I always use like an analogy of the firefighter. Like you take that fire hose with that bail, you open that thing full, and you try to drink as much water as you possibly can.
Oh, my goodness. So it's, you just learn, as like you said, on the job learning. So, the big thing was you always want to kick a door in, because that's cool.
Right.
And then a chief walks up next to you and turns the doorknob and opens the door for you. I'm like, oh, it's not as cool as kicking
That's cool.
it.
Yeah, I'm all about kicking this thing, baby.
But we had a good time. A lot of good guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
You take a little bit from each guy that, you can use and make yourself into hopefully a better fireman.
You and I have the same philosophy.
Oh, my goodness. So.
I always say that through FTO, as just because if you didn't like someone as an FTO, I liked all of my FTOs, but each person is proficient in one area in a sense.
Right.
They have a passion, so you can always learn so much from that person, take a little bit here, take a little bit there, but I think that makes you such a well-rounded individual.
Absolutely. One of my good buddies, we were partnered up, and he would do his thing, and I'm like, shoot, I don't know about that. He goes, no, I got you. And then we get in a different situation, and he's like, I don't know about this. I'm like, no, I'm good there. So we would follow each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, is this you or is this me? Who's leading?
Who's doing this?
So, there was a couple of times I was like, I'm not going. I'm like, I'm not going either.
Well, then it's
yeah. So
perfect.
It was good though.
So tell me. We talked a little bit about your academy. Let's talk about your early career as a firefighter.
That was at Engine 29's house, which is 35th and Lowell.
Okay.
It's attached to, I don't think it's a police station anymore, but that's Comiskey Park.
Oh, wow.
You know, which during baseball season was a pain in the ass because you're eating dinner at 6 o'clock and the game is starting, and people know, firemen, of course, they know there's free parking behind the firehouse. So you'd have to get up and rearrange cars for people and relatives and kids and stuff. So, but it was fun.
Yeah.
You know, good neighborhood, nice people. You know, I ended up leaving there and going into the neighborhood, into Mount Greenwood.
Nice.
Ended up getting promoted out of there. So I got promoted early. So
To engineer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The guy I started with.
Real quick before we get into that, I'm sorry. For those that don't know what an engineer in the fire department does, what's your job?
Oh, it's the best job. You get to drive.
Oh, let's go.
I mean, you're going to pay me to drive a freaking fire truck. Okay, well, that's cool. Yeah. And then the main thing is that you have a good air horn.
Gotcha.
So you want to be able to roll up behind someone and blow their back window out with the air horn.
Let's go.
You know, so.
Because some people don't get out of the way.
No.
Some people do not.
It's almost like a moth. As soon as the lights turn on, they stick to you.
You're like, God, get out of the way. I'm trying to get to this fire.
It's crazy, you know. So you just got to hope that you have enough air in your left after you blow the air horn to stop the engine, you know, if you need to stop.
Oh, so it's connected.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
It runs off of one big old tank.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
how fast is a refill?
Not fast enough sometimes. You know, because I've been told I wouldn't have made that move, and I'm like, well, I had no choice.
Right.
I had to go into oncoming traffic because I have no brakes.
Right. I'm in the zone. Don't stop me now.
But just an amazing job.
Oh, love it. So you're talking about your buddy.
My buddy.
I cut you off. What did you say before I cut you off? I'm sorry.
Oh, the guy that was following the fires. And
yeah.
He just he had a certain knack about him. There were certain things that he would do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I don't know about that. He goes, no, I got you. So he would go. I remember going in the projects on Federal Street, 35th and Federal, and those floors were probably, I don't know, 2 feet thick of concrete.
Oh, wow.
But in the academy, they tell you to scoot along and check the floor.
Right.
Well, I walked right past him. And he's like, what the hell are you doing? He goes, you didn't check for holes in the floor. I'm like, dude, that's like 2 feet of concrete. If there's a hole in that much concrete,
we're screwed.
Yeah.
You know, we got other problems.
We
got other problems, brother.
Absolutely.
That's the least of our
But
problems.
his mind, he went back to his training.
Right.
Which they told him, check the floor before you move ahead.
Right.
You know, there was an instance where we were crawling in a fire, and there was a 55-gallon aquarium. And inside the aquarium was supposed to be 2 snakes. There was only 1 snake.
Oh, no, thank you.
And the guy who owned the apartment came back. He says, oh, I'm missing a snake. And I'm like, fuck. Somewhere in this apartment while we were crawling around is a 6-foot or whatever big snake. So
probably a ball python or something.
Yeah. Right? So,
I don't mess with snakes. I don't know about you.
No. You know, there's a joke. They said, what snakes are you afraid of? Big snakes, little snakes, and sticks that look like snakes. You know, so I'm all about that.
Me too.
I've learned I can scream pretty loud too, like a girl. So I know that personally.
Right. Our buddy has a reptile company, and anytime like I go into he's got a massive garage now, like almost a barn full of reptiles. So every time I go in, I'm like, I'm checking above doors.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, thank you, I'm good.
Well, that was it. When you were in the projects and going into the like the garbage room where they dump all the garbage, they had the pipes above you.
Yeah.
And the rats would run above you on those pipes, you know,
thanks.
or the cockroaches. Before you got on the rig, you do a cockroach shakedown. You take your jacket off and you would shake your jacket to make sure that, you know, you didn't have cockroaches coming back to the firehouse.
Oh, my God.
God forbid you bring your shit home and now you got them at home. So just all crazy stuff.
Things you don't even think about.
No.
Dave, you talking about the snakes, that just jogged my memory, man. We had a fire. Wasn't a crazy fire, but me and my partner I was with, we had to go down to the basement and shut off the power.
Okay.
And it was pretty smoke-filled in the basement. Like, standing up, you're bumping into stuff. No lights down there, right? And we're walking by and we're knocking these totes down, and I feel like something fall on me, and I shake it off, and I'm like, man, that felt funny, Finally, find the power, shut it down, we get out. A little while later, somebody comes up, and he's like, dude, that basement is full of snakes. We're like, what? They're like, yeah, all those totes, they're reptiles and snakes.
No.
So I'm like, oh my God, I had like snakes crawling all over me and crap. Oh,
No, thank you.
like, yeah, we had to go down there and wrangle it. And I'm like, nope, not me.
Not a chance. Someone else.
It's your guys' fire. You can go do it.
The more you don't know, the better.
Right?
Right. It's like the reporting officer, like, this is your report. This is your call. Good luck. I got to go.
Yeah.
See
Good
you
luck
later.
with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you left Comiskey and then you went to your second apartment or your second house.
Yeah, that
firehouse.
was back in Mount Greenwood. Spent some time there. Probably got promoted within 6 or 7 years.
Okay.
Second day being an engineer, tore my Achilles at a fire.
Like a complete tear?
No.
Oh.
Tear enough.
Yeah.
At a fire, pulling hose, slipped, started hopping around. The officer's like, what's with you? I'm like, I twisted my ankle. They're like, can you drive back to the firehouse? I was like, yeah. Happened to be a woman doctor riding with the ambulance that day at the firehouse.
Really?
They do that every once in a while because
Hours or something?
sometimes the doctors give the ambulance a hard time or the nurses.
Uh-huh.
They're like, well, they're going to show them how hectic it is to be on an ambulance.
Right.
So she was doing a ride along. I remember we're standing in the kitchen, and she's like, oh, I'm a doctor. Let me check your ankle. And she couldn't get my boot off, because when she tried to take my boot off, it was like she was taking my foot off. So we ended up getting the boot off, and all she did was take a finger and touch a certain spot. And I remember I punched her in the top of the head, and she went flying into the pool table, and she goes, yeah, you tore your Achilles. I'm like, sorry, I didn't mean to punch you like that, but it was just a reaction, And off that hospital I went. That was a 2-year and 8-month ordeal.
Oh, it's a hard comeback on that one, right?
Staph infection, skin grafts. I had been on a medication for arthritis that they knew nothing about.
Mm-hmm.
And after 2 years, they figured out that this medication would not let that wound heal.
Oh, perfect.
Come off that medication, then it got all healed back and went back to work.
Okay.
But that was 2 years and 8 months.
Do you remember what you did to tear that, or was it just the whole night? It kind of just...
That was simply leaning into a compartment door and slipped on the ice, and just that fast.
No way.
Just that fast. So, yeah, that was 2 years, 8 months. That was interesting.
That's a rough recovery too. I know that it's not an easy thing to rehab.
Yeah. So it took a while and made it back and just kept on going,
Nice.
Not too many other injuries other than that,
Which,
luckily,
right.
So to take the engineer job and, you don't get to do fun stuff like the fireman got to do,
Right.
which I did.
Did it all.
Yeah, a little
Yeah,
bit.
you did. You're not the type of guy to sit back.
No.
You want it on the action too.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I had a chief tell me, he goes, don't do it.
Right.
I'm like, don't do what? He goes, I don't want to see you come across that sidewalk. He goes, stay with your rig. And I'm like, okay.
You're in timeout.
Yeah. Well, he walked away, and I got a hold of a pike pole, and I beat out the front windows and got back behind the sidewalk before he saw me. He
He's like, damn it, Dave, I
Yeah.
told you, buddy.
Yeah. Well, years after that, you were able to wear a pink shirt in October for breast cancer.
Yeah.
So we caught a fire, and we were doing okay, So I made it to the second floor of the house, and I was opening windows and stuff. And he said, "You were on the second floor." I said, "No, I wasn't." He goes, "Yeah, you were." He said, "I saw your frickin' pink T-shirt."
Gave you
He
away.
goes, "You weirdo."
You
I'm like,
weirdo.
"Weirdo." He goes, "Don't go in the house." I'm like, "Well, I was just trying to help out."
Yeah, I want to play too.
Yeah. The old man always told me, he goes, "Never stand around.
Right.
Never watch other people work."
Oh, I have the same philosophy.
So, I was good at what my job was, and I was, the guys were fine, so I figured I'd take a walk.
Yeah, let's party.
So it was good though. Lots of crazy stuff.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Like that TV show, Chicago Fire Will Never End.
No.
There's just so much,
Content for that.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know, and you watch it every once in a while, like, oh, I remember that.
Really?
I remember that too.
Really?
Those guys got in trouble for that.
So do you watch Chicago Fire a lot?
Here and there.
Yeah.
Here and there.
My buddy who has that reptile company, he actually has been on the show, been on Chicago Fire a few times.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, well, his reptiles, like the turtle, they had an episode with the turtle. That was his turtle.
Oh,
I think
no
they
shit.
did one with a snake.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool.
I have a neighbor at the lake house. She's Miss Norma. She's 94, and she's like, "Oh, thank you for what you do."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "No, not really." 'Cause she's like, "No, I watched that Chicago Fire, and I see what you guys do." I'm like, "Oh boy."
Oh boy.
I said, "Well, when I retire and we come down here full time," I said, "We're going to sit. We're going to watch that show together."
Right.
And I'll explain some things to you. She goes, "Well, I have to shut it off every once in a while. It gets a little risque." I said, "Yeah, it's so." She enjoyed. I got her a T-shirt from the show, and
Awesome.
she liked that. So but
That's awesome.
yeah,
So how long were you at your second station for?
probably only 2 years.
Oh, and then you moved on.
2 years, and then got promoted. Did the engineer thing. Like I said, second day got hurt. 2 years, 8 months off.
Mm-hmm.
Made it back. Ended up in Hegwish
Okay.
at Engine 97. Spent some time out there, and then eventually got back into Mount Greenwood
Okay.
at Engine 92, where I retired out of there.
Nice.
So it was a good move. You know, the kids were starting to go through EMT school and stuff like that.
Okay.
So was able to help them and go over the rigs with them.
Oh, there you go.
You know, so it all worked out.
Set them up for success.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. My oldest son came home one day and said, "I need money. I want to be an EMT."
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "Okay." So we sent him to EMT school, and then came back and said, "I need $5,000. I want to be a paramedic." I'm like, "A paramedic?" I'm like, "You're the kid I have to carry through the parking lot when you get your shots for school because you pass out all the time, and now you want to be a paramedic?" I'm like, "All right, here you go." So he did that and went on to the nursing school,
Yeah.
and he signed up with Oak Lawn, and they took him.
Love it.
You know, so it was funny. When he met with the board, they looked at his paperwork and they said, "You're a nurse," and he said, "Yeah." He goes, "And you want to be a fireman?" He goes, "Yeah, I want to be a fireman." He goes, "Well, what's with the nurse?" He goes, "Well, that's my fallback."
Smart.
They're like, "Oh, you crazy." So they took him, and he did his thing. My daughter was, like I said, was with Special Olympics.
Yeah.
And she's that type of person, which I think I am now too. If you look through a staircase and you can look through it, or a bridge and you can look through it and see the water,
Right.
she wants to throw up.
Okay.
And I know first week of academy, they throw the 100-foot main to the top of the fire academy,
Right.
which you can see through, and she's not going to make it. So
Right.
I was trying to talk to her into taking a leave of absence from Special Olympics because I knew she was going to make that ladder climb.
Yeah.
And my phone went off with her ringtone, and there it is. My buddy was an instructor, and there's her coming over the top of that 100-foot ladder. Look what I did today.
What a proud moment.
I'm like, holy crap.
Love it.
She actually made it.
That's awesome.
You
That's
know?
like a proud dad moment right there.
You know, so
When your child gets over one of her greatest fears.
oh, brutal.
Amazing.
Brutal.
Good for
So-
her.
So she's a tough one.
Good.
You know, she's a ruffian. You know,
She has to be in this career this
I mean,
this career path.
that's a woman in basically a male dominated profession. You know, so my only concern is her having to prove herself every day,
Right.
which I told her you don't have to do. You've already done that.
Right.
You know, I remember sitting at her graduation at McCormick Place, and I had like an out of body experience, and I know we were at a graduation for fire, and I looked at the left, and it was my oldest son, and looked to the right, my youngest son. I'm like, why the hell am I here?
Right.
And as they're walking in, you see all the tall guys, and then you drop down and see my daughter, and then back, I'm like, I'm here for my daughter. I'm like, I don't get this.
Right.
You
Never
know?
never expected that
No.
to happen.
No, never. You know, so she loves it.
Love it.
You know, she talks shit just like the boys, and
You have to.
yeah, it's weird to hear her talk because I'm like, where'd you learn that from? You know, I'm like,
Who taught you
I
that?
forgot you're a fireman. You know, everyone thinks she's a paramedic. They're like, oh, look at how she's attractive, young
Right.
lady, so she's a paramedic. I'm like, no, she's not a paramedic.
No, she's in the nitty gritty.
Yeah, and she'll show your helmet with insulation and shit hanging off of it,
Love it.
And then the next picture, you'll see her standing in her wedding gown. I'm like, wow, what happened here?
Both worlds.
Yeah. So, and then Luke is just Luke's a truckman.
Yeah.
He, if you have a wall, and like my oldest son, if you have a wall and you say, get past that wall, and my oldest son, he will walk around the wall. Where Luke will he'll run through the wall, and then he'll run back through it again because it was fun.
Yeah.
So he's our truckman.
So truckman, for that people that don't understand, what does that term mean?
He actually drives a ladder truck,
Gotcha.
which has all the ladders on it.
Okay.
You set that ladder up, and you go to the roof, and you cut holes in the roof. One time he was on the roof of a warehouse, and I saw him on TV, and I knew exactly it was him.
Yeah.
And I said, what the heck? He goes, I was on the roof. I'm like, dude, you've never been on the roof to clean leaves out of the gutter. What the hell are you doing on a roof that's on a building that's on fire?
You've been holding on to me this whole time, bro. You could have done the leaves.
Yeah. You got the leaves next time, So he loves it.
Love it. And what department is he with?
He's with Tinley Park.
Tinley Park.
He goes between 3 different houses out there.
Nice.
Drives the engine and the ladder truck, and I just shake my head. I'm like, wow, that's crazy.
I love it. Just just a firefighter family, 3 generations, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, he gets by because he's also a hockey player, so they're not quite right either. So it worked out.
He fits right in.
It's perfect. I'm like,
He fits right in. Yeah. I mean, you don't really understand like a first responder's lifestyle, humor, and stuff until you're in the mix.
Right.
It's very. There's nothing on the table like we talked about before. You're off the table. You're always going to get your chops busted.
Yeah.
But it's like that brotherhood bond.
It is.
And just like you said, like if someone's not picking on you, it's because they probably don't like you.
It is. They don't want to spend the time.
Right.
And they told they would always say, when you leave, you won't miss the circus, you'll miss the clowns.
Yeah.
And
you do.
It's so true. I truly miss it. I know, like when that firehouse goes out to a fire, the guy that I worked with on that shift, he'll blow the air horn a different way.
Right.
Which means we have a fire. And I'm like, yeah, I know the way he's blowing the air horn.
Right.
So I go grab my phone, I click on the scanner, and I listen to him.
Right. It's the little things that you miss.
It is.
And Carrie and I talk about this all the time because we've been out of the job. So, you miss that brotherhood. You really do.
It's my daughter had an officer on the truck pass about a month ago, and she was upset, and I get that. I said, you don't realize how quickly you become attached to the other people in your house.
Yeah.
Because you hear, the kids winning awards, winning baseball games, how they're doing in school.
Right.
A spouse that's sick or something, and you spend so much time.
They're family.
You really are.
Yeah.
It's a weird feeling, but it happens, and then until that something does happen, you know that feeling, that bond.
Yeah.
So that's probably one of the things that I miss.
Yeah.
But I still get it through my kids, so I found another way to still be
attached.
Yes.
Yeah, and I feel like this is Carrie and I's way of still being attached to this lifestyle.
Absolutely.
Because we get to talk to amazing people like you. We want to have your kids on. I mean, we want to hear their stories.
Yeah, I'm interested for that.
Honestly, I think we should probably try and get all 4 of you on and see if we can try that.
Yeah.
That would be, oh my God, that would be an episode and a half.
I don't know if our table's big enough.
No.
We'll make it big enough.
Yeah.
We'll make it big enough.
I'd be interested to hear that.
Oh, it'd be awesome.
And then you could really reach out and then get with the wives and see what they thought about this whole ride.
Right. Oh, I bet your wife has some stories.
She's hung in there well.
Yeah.
But when the kids are on work, she knows. She don't want to know.
Right. That's what my mom is.
Yeah. Because my phone will do certain things. As soon as she hears the scanner on, she'll ask, who has a fire?
Right.
And it's usually my daughter. the one person that you really don't want to have a fire.
Right. Also, too, think about the dynamic of you always probably had a feeling your sons were going to follow your footsteps. You never had a feeling that your daughter would follow your footsteps.
No.
And then she's
No,
always
that's my baby.
Yeah,
That's
she's
my
always
girl.
in the shit, right?
Yeah.
She's the one that's in
Yeah.
the shit, and she's the one that's doing all the fun
Absolutely.
stuff.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And the first person she'll text with, her picture of her helmet all trashed and insulation hanging off is the boys.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Hallie had fire. Yeah, we know.
We know.
Yeah. So.
Rubbing it in their face.
Oh my goodness, she loves it. So
Good.
I'm happy for her.
I want to get into the meat and potatoes of your career, brother. Let's. Do you have any like one story that really just sticks out to you?
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I keep going back, and there was two. There was two rescues. There was one on 22nd Street out of Chinatown.
Mm-hmm.
Did a rescue there. A truck went out on a fire. I was on the engine. They went to another fire. They got wet, which plays into the story as we go along. Then we caught a fire.
They got wet. What does that mean?
Picking up hose.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, they just that was back in the day of 3/4 jackets.
Okay.
The old rubber jackets you guys had talked about.
Yeah.
We were still using those.
Okay.
So they went out to a fire. We were left back. We ended up catching a fire right outside the firehouse on 22nd Street.
Oh wow.
It's called the Honeycombs, and they're still there. They're round buildings, and they look like honeycombs. Fire was on the second floor. As we're walking up, I saw the flames. I'm like, oh, this is easy. It's only second floor. That we don't have to climb, a million miles.
Right.
And we had two people come down, and they said there's another guy still down there.
One of your guys or
a resident.
Okay.
So me and a guy I was with, name was Ricky Cruz. We crawled down there, and you could see the guy laying out in front of the door. You could see his white socks.
Yeah.
So Ricky went and did his thing to get us some water, and I took this guy, and for whatever reason, I dragged him down the hallway, and I left him by the stairs. I'm like, I don't know what I was doing. So
Right.
I didn't want to leave Ricky by himself. I figured the guys were coming up the stairs. I'd find this guy and drag him down.
Right.
So I crawled back down there, and me and Ricky tried to make into this apartment, and we couldn't make it. So every time that he would turn the hose on, it would like shoot us back into the hallway.
With heat or
Just the power of the
hose?
What had happens was when you turn on the hose in a high rise,
Yeah.
the building has pumps in it, and it just gives you way too much pressure.
Right.
That you're supposed to use. So when you hit that hose open, it shoot us back into the hallway, and we'd shut it off and crawl back in there, and
Right.
it keeps shooting us. So the old man told me, lock your elbows inside the door jamb and hold yourself in. So
Yeah.
that's what I did. Well, at one point, Ricky had crawled all over the top of me screaming, and I didn't know what he was doing, so I stayed.
Yeah.
Well, what had happened is I had washed the ceiling down and ended up steaming myself.
Oh.
And then I believe the window broke,
Okay.
which flashed it over.
Because your excess of oxygen that feeds the fire, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The window that broke was in the back bedroom. And this is just weird how this happens. If that hose wasn't had so much pressure on it and shoot us into the hallway, we would have ended up making that back bedroom, and we would have got flashed on and we would have died, I think.
Oh.
So by the grace of God, too much pressure kept us from getting too deep into that apartment.
Yeah.
So I was running, crawling, screaming, hit the stairwell, slid down the stairwell on my stomach, and I was in so much pain. I'm like, I'm pretty sure all the skin is burnt off my body. There wasn't nothing. There was nothing. Like someone slapped your hand real hard and give you a red spot.
Yeah.
And I couldn't imagine being in that much pain and not having, your skin peel off of you.
Right.
And what it took to have skin peel off your body.
Yeah.
So it ends up that the truck that was at the other fire ended up showing up and helping us, but they were wet.
Yeah.
And when that thing flashed over, it steamed them.
Oh.
You're because
being cooked.
Yeah, you cook inside your coat. So I was laying in the lobby room floor. They came down on top of me, screaming. There's a thing called a hand pump, which nobody wants to carry. It's usually the new guy's partner for the first year. you know, and if they want to jag with you, they put bricks in it to make it even heavier.
Oh, that's so sweet of you
You
guys.
know, yeah. So
You're really fighting fires, trying to save lives,
Yeah,
and you're putting bricks in there.
shooting bricks out.
Why did I never think of that? That's a good
Oh
one.
my
Right.
goodness! So I learned from my experiences to always check and see if there was bricks in there. You know, so I ended up dumping these hand cans on top of them
Yeah.
to stop them from burning. And the lieutenant was screaming, "Get my gloves off!" So I got his gloves off. Well, unfortunately, I had taken the skin off his hands when I pulled his gloves off. You know, so next day at the firehouse, chief said, "Come here, I want to talk to you." He said, "You took Rich's gloves off him at that fire." I said, "Yeah." I said, "He was screaming, 'Get my gloves off,' because he was burning." He goes, "Well, you have to calm down and think about what you're doing." I said, I didn't, because he was screaming. And all I wanted to do was stop him
Yeah.
from screaming.
Yeah. You want to help him.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
And when I took his gloves off, unfortunately, you know, the skin came off his hands.
Oh,
So learn that
Right.
lesson. You know,
that one will stick with you.
that one, he never came back from that.
Really.
Yeah, he didn't come back from that. The other guy that was burnt, a good friend of mine, he made it back, you know, after a while. Then I ended up transferring out of that firehouse and into Mount Greenwood,
Yeah.
you know. And probably the other story, believe it or not, was probably a couple of weeks before I retired. They called us out for a fire, and it was in Garden Homes, which is next to Chicago.
Yeah.
And they gave us the address. We went, and we called the officer. We said, "We don't see anything." They said, "Well, go down about a block farther and take a left." And when we did, you could see the smoke.
Oh, yeah.
I was with a relief officer, and he didn't know where he was at.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew if I went another 10, 20 feet, the curbs stopped,
Right.
which means you're now out of Chicago. You're in Garden Homes.
Gotcha.
And our stuff doesn't fit their hydrants.
Wow.
So basically, you only have the 500 gallons on the engine to fight a fire with.
and that's not enough.
Sometimes it's not. So of course, I'm a screamer a little bit.
Yeah.
I said, "We don't have water. We just have what we have on us."
Yeah.
Pulled up in front, Saturday afternoon, summer, minivan in the driveway. You start thinking, these people are home, minivan, kids.
Yeah.
I asked the police, "Did you open it up to see what's going on?" He says, "I didn't do nothing yet." So, of course, not doing my job like I was supposed to, I kicked the door. They said, 2 dogs and a cat. I'm like, okay. Well, as soon as they kicked that door, that cat came out at about 100 miles an hour.
Oh, I bet.
And I crawled through there in my pink T-shirt. And I'm looking for people and yelling. Nothing. Came back out, got some air. And they said, "All right, we got the one cat. There's still dogs in there." And as I was crawling, and I think the only reason I saw him because I was crawling was between the couch and the wall was a tail.
Yeah.
And I looked, I'm like, that looks like a tail. And I flipped the couch over, and sure enough, it was a pit bull.
Oh.
And I went to grab him, and he ran down the wall deeper into the fire.
Of course.
And I crawled after him, and I just remember telling him 1,000 times not to bite me.
Please.
Picked him up, and I carried him out and put him in the yard, and off he went.
Yeah.
And, after the fire, we got done, and we sat and we played for a while, but
Made a new best friend.
oh yeah.
Were you
Yeah.
masked up at the time?
No.
There's
No.
just no mask, just
No.
going in your pink T-shirt.
Yeah.
Hopefully your chief
Yeah.
doesn't see you.
Quickly, very quickly. Thank God for a big head. I had a lot of air with me.
Yeah.
Went down there and got him out, and I keep going back to that. He was so happy.
Right.
His tail was wagging 100 miles an hour. He's like, "Oh, thank you." I'm like, "Oh."
Right.
But I don't know, just weird little things like that stick with you.
100%.
There's lots of other stuff too.
Yeah.
Like you said, when you're interacting with the community, and they put the kids up on the trucks and they get a cookie or whatever.
Right.
That's every day.
Yeah.
But these other little weird things happen.
Right.
So, people look at him like, "It was a dog." I'm like, "Well, that's a living thing."
100%. And that family is probably grateful to you for
Absolutely.
saving their animals.
They weren't they weren't happy that we wrecked their house, but
Well, their
Yeah.
house was on fire, so
Yeah.
there's no...
Yeah, it was. Yeah, because I remember the chief coming and calling us, and he said, "That's not your fire."
Right.
get back on the fire truck, and go back in quarters.
Right.
And I talked to him on the radio. I said, Chief, we have a line in the building. We're committed.
Yeah.
He goes, well, uncommit yourself. And I'm not going to drive away from a fire
Right.
and something happen
Right.
where the neighbors are taking video and, oh, there was a fire truck here and,
And
they left.
just leave.
And there was people inside and they died.
Right.
So
I was just going to say, can you imagine the optics of that?
Ooh.
Like Channel 5 News gets a hold of that. Look at this Chicago rig leaving this fire.
Right.
Like,
I mean, I'm a fireman.
Yeah.
I don't care where I'm at. If there's a fire, I'm going to fight it.
Right.
You know, you'll hear the city guys don't like the suburban guys. The suburban guys don't like the city guys.
Right.
Everybody's got their egos or whatever. I don't care.
Right.
I'm an engineer. I'm still a fireman. I'm not going to act all badass because I'm promoted.
Right.
I've always been very humble, I guess.
Which is what you should do.
I'm
Or
a
be.
fireman.
Yeah.
I don't care where you work, what you do. That fire doesn't care. It'll kill you as a suburban fireman or a city fireman.
Yep.
It doesn't care.
Right. 100%.
So,
You did the right thing. I mean, if you know the other truck rolled up and they're like, "Hey, we got it. All right, cool. Like you guys are
Yeah.
here now. You guys can do your portion of the town, your
Right.
area of responsibility,
Right.
and we'll step away." Or unless if they need help too, it's like, I mean, if I go to another town and ask for assistance, they're going to assist me,
Right.
and I would do vice versa. I'm like, this isn't my call, but no.
yeah.
What if things hit the fan? Shit hits the fan.
Yes, yes. Which was that other truck that was coming was my youngest son, who was a fireman in Robbins. And when the kids get a fire, they'll send me an emoji of the flames.
Right.
So I know that they have a fire. Well, he had sent an emoji. Said, we got a fire. And I text him back after things calmed down, like, yeah, I know we're here. And he walked up on that fire.
Oh wow!
And,
How cool is
we
that?
We were able to technically fight a fire together.
Wow.
We got a couple pictures, and then 2 weeks later, I retired. So it was kind of cool.
That's like a highlight of your
It
career
was.
right there,
It
in
was.
a sense.
It's just little things that
Right.
would mean so much.
Right. It could be just a little fire, but in your eyes, that's probably one of the best parts of your
Yeah.
career. I mean,
So-
I know that would be for me.
Yeah, we got our picture taken, and we went back. He went back to the suburbs, and I went back to the city.
Love it, brother.
Our respectful areas.
Right. Yeah.
And then I got pulled in the office again.
Yeah, take a seat. Oh
Yeah.
man, not again.
Yeah, you're too aggressive. I'm like,
Well, whatever. I'm retiring in 2 weeks. I don't even care.
There was we had a fire probably a week before I retired. It was 3:00 in the morning. I had my T-shirt on. I had no socks on. My hair was all whatever hair I had left was all crazy. And had this big chief walk up to me, and a woman, and she goes, "Look at you." I go, "Look at me what?" She goes, "Look at your hair. Your hair's all fucked up." She goes, "You got a T-shirt on and you got no socks on." I'm like, "Well, I guess you haven't looked in the mirror." She was a big chief, and she was like, "Okay." I'm like, "You know what you could do to me? I'm retiring next week."
Yeah, I don't care.
But she got a kick out of it.
Oh, hey,
But
that's the fire. That's the fire world, right?
oh my goodness. So do it all over again in a second.
Right. So, how you enjoying retirement life?
It sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never been so busy, worked so hard, cheap. Oh,
Right.
you're retired now, you can do this.
Right.
But I miss the guys.
Yeah.
I'm getting stuff done, and I'm wondering how I got stuff done when I was working.
Right.
But it's good. It's good. It's not as relaxing as I thought it would be.
Right. The honey-do list.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What'd you do today?
Yeah, exactly.
I got to make up shit.
Yeah. I've done that before, brother.
Yeah. And the dog looks at it like, oh.
He's giving you away.
Yeah.
I thought we were friends.
Yeah. Why is he not sleeping? Well, because he slept all day.
We took a few naps.
Yeah.
Drank some coffee.
Oh my goodness. No, it's good.
Yeah.
I'm getting out helping other people, working with, like I said, Project Fire Buddies when I can there.
Right. Tell me a little bit about Project Fire Buddies.
Project Fire Buddies was started with Kurt DeGroot,
Mm-hmm.
Oak Forest Fire Department. Carrie knows, you go on these calls and sometimes it's the same person.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to this little boy's house who was sick and did what they had to do. And, you get back on the rig and you go back to the firehouse and, you're done.
Yeah.
Well, Kurt wasn't done.
Yeah.
He thought there was something else he wanted to do something more.
Yeah.
So he called, got a hold of the parents, and said when he's feeling better, can we come back and hang out? And she called and said he's feeling better today. Why don't you guys make a trip out? So they went out and they played air hockey and stuff.
Oh.
And they were there for a reason, not as an emergency.
Yeah.
They were there just to have fun. No lights and sirens, no nothing.
Yeah.
So it started from there, and just absolutely went crazy.
Right.
We had Oak Lawn Fire Department was the second chapter in the charity.
Yeah.
I think they were picked because there was a little boy in Mount Greenwood that was sick, and Chicago doesn't have a chapter. There's reasons why, and my son took him in as their fire buddy, they call it.
Love it.
And they said they're doing like a block party for him and presents and stuff, and they wanted to bring their fire trucks over, and they weren't allowed to.
Okay.
It was 2 blocks into the city from where my son works.
Right.
Which they'll probably figure out who I'm talking about, but that's fine. So he asked me, he said, hey, can you bring your engine out to this block party for this little boy? I said, absolutely.
Yeah.
Talked to the captain. Captain said, fine. Truck said, hey, where you guys going? I said, we're going to block party for this little kid. He said, well, we're going with. I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Ambulance
More the merrier.
Yeah. Ambulance is like, hey, where you guys going? I said, we're going to block party. I'm like, we're going.
Yeah.
So we're able to get the engine, the truck, and the ambulance there. Went to the block party and did our thing. He ended up moving from Mount Greenwood to Manhattan. So then Manhattan took him as their fire buddy.
Nice. So they had him until I'll fast forward because I'll get emotional till he passed. Oh, God.
So
You and I say this, I feel like a lot of people don't really realize the magnitude for that kid's life what you guys did for that kid, because to him, you guys are real life superheroes. Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, all that. You guys are that kid's superhero. So just spending that time with him, you made that kid's short time on this earth 10 times better.
And that's Fire Buddies make more better days.
Love it.
So they use that as their logo, and they just, what they do for these families and for these kids is just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
I'm not impressed easily.
Mm-hmm.
You have to really do something, and you could say you're doing something, and I'm like, okay, well,
cool.
You got to do this, and
Show
these
me.
guys do it.
Love it.
The police, the fire, they give.
Yeah.
Their time, their money. People are busy. They have kids, second jobs, money's tight.
Yeah.
They just step up.
Yeah.
So
We need more of that.
It's easy.
Super easy.
It's easy. People get all wound up, and we had talked before about the red tape of this name and using that name for this type of
right.
Just do.
Right.
So
we honestly need to put aside the BS and just focus on what we're really doing here.
It's help people. It's
Yeah.
easy.
You do it in your daily job, but take the time to be a human, be a dad, because seeing my kid in the hospital when he's sick and stuff, it just rips your heart out.
Yeah.
And then anytime I see any reel or anything on like Instagram or Facebook of these sick kids, it just rips my heart out of my chest, and I just want to keep doing more and more. And those kids deserve the best.
Yeah, they really do.
They deserve the best.
They really do. We just they did. My son's fire department, my oldest son's fire department, does a toy drive. So we collect toys for that. There was a story where, and it wasn't in Chicago. This little girl was in the hospital for whatever reason, and she had put up a sign in her hospital room, "Send pizza." And if you look it up, you could read the story, and people were sending pizza.
Good.
And they had to go on social media and say,
"Please stop sending
pizza."
We have pizza for the whole hospital.
Oh my goodness! So we, my son and with another friend of mine from the fire department, set up a pizza day.
Love it.
And they went to Baracco's and set up personal pan pizzas. I don't know, it was a couple hundred of them.
Yeah.
And they showed up at Christ Hospital and just divided everything up, and off they went. And
Yeah.
we delivered personal pan pizzas to all the kids.
And how excited were they?
Oh my goodness, it was amazing. And it's pizza, you know.
No, yeah, but to them,
Yeah, they like seeing the guys that there was Marines with us.
oh yeah,
They
there
were
we
dressed.
go.
They're tight.
Yeah, oh, those dress uniforms,
Yeah,
they're sharp.
They're tight.
They're
know.
sharp.
You know, and then you got us like the
Your
you
pink T-shirts,
yeah, my pink T-shirt, my flip flops. You know, but
hair all mess.
yeah, you know, all 4 of them. But we did a great job. They did a great job.
Love it.
I didn't realize, other than my fire department, what these other fire departments do.
Yeah.
And like I said, my oldest is with Oak Lawn, so now you know who I'm talking about. And with Tinley Park, they do. Love it. And they keep doing it. And I'm like, it's amazing.
Honestly, it's probably one of the best parts about the job, in my eyes.
It is. I mean, their charity work is incredible. They're very respectful. When I visit the firehouse, their training is top notch.
Yeah.
I didn't realize. I mean, they're training all the time.
Yeah.
So I feel comfortable with the boys and their training. Again, I go back to my daughter. She's my little girl. So,
right.
You know, we've talked to God a lot since then.
Yeah, brother.
You know, every morning, every night.
Yeah. Say a little prayer.
Absolutely. So, I got in trouble for not wearing a mask during COVID, doing CPR.
Right.
And I took out my crucifix and I told the paramedic that was screaming at me where my mask is. I said, my mask is right here. It is what it is.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, if I gotta go, I gotta go.
Well, listen, you almost went in a fire and someone was protecting you.
Yeah. So you got to believe in something.
I think things happen for a reason, brother.
They do. So just keep on doing it and see what happens.
Yeah.
You know, watching the kids and watching whoever else. You know, when I had got in touch with Kerry back in the day, you know, his mom was like, "Hey, this is what he wants to do." I'm like, "Oh." I felt good because I was able to help. You know, when I talk to moms or dads or whatever, my son wants to do this. I'm like, well, do this.
Right.
You know, because I didn't really get that.
Same.
I didn't get that.
And I have people ask me all the time, like, hey, can you talk to this guy? Like, please do me a favor. Like, it's actually an honor in my eyes because I didn't have that either going into it. And I want to try and set somebody up for success.
Yes.
There's too many guys out there in this field where they're like, figure it out. Figure it out. Well, absolutely. There's some things you need to figure out on your own. But then, too, it's like, set them up for success, right? Yes. Get him that foundation, get him rock solid, and then there's other things he can learn on his own or they can learn on their own.
Absolutely. You can eliminate a lot of running around.
Right.
I think you were already set up to go to Romeoville.
Yeah, I think I was just going into the academy when we started chatting.
Yeah. So I have a relative in Indiana, volunteer. You know, you need gloves, you need Nomex hoods, you need boots, whatever. And when you run across these parents, I'm like, you know, I would start with the EMT.
Yeah.
I believe my youngest, and you know, I believe my youngest went through EMT when he was a senior in high school.
Yeah.
And he came out of high school and he was already had that certificate. And then I got to thinking, why don't these high schools offer?
Right.
I mean, I was picking art classes and pottery and flower arrangements because he needed to make up these classes.
Yeah.
Why would you not do this?
100%.
So I know back in the day, you guys are much younger. There was a school called Washburn Trade School.
Yeah.
And in the city somewhere, and you know, you'd walk in that school and plumbers to the left, electricians down this hallway, carpenters here, and you went and did.
Right. What you want to do.
You know, for those kids that weren't going to college.
And I think they need to bring that back.
Oh,
in mass across the United States.
Brutally. You know, and you went and learned your trade.
Yeah.
You didn't have to take a language or a flower arrangement class or whatever.
Which is all good and fun. Like if you want to do pottery, that's the path you want to take for sure. It's a good class. It's fun. But honestly, is it really going to set you up for your future? No, it's not.
You know.
What did half a school year of jewelry teach me about anything? Like, I just had to get an art class done, so I'm like, do jewelry. I would have loved to have done EMT or you know, we had other shop classes, but they were shutting them down during the recession, so I was just like, okay.
Yeah, I guess the education system in a way is broken, and hopefully it gets fixed here soon.
Well, I was Oak Lawn High School, community high school, so we had small engines, we had foundry,
Yeah,
we had they had 2x4 walls set up so we could wire walls. They had auto mechanic class. You go down there and work on a car, which now I hear is a dance studio. There's no more mechanics class.
that's stupid.
You know,
I took a shop class in high school and I loved it. I learned how to do tires. I learned how to do brakes. I mean, just the basics of like maintaining your vehicle. That's something you can take with you the rest of your life.
absolutely.
Not
I mean,
dance.
I went heavy on the home economics class because you would cook.
Yeah.
You know, so I didn't have to spend money at lunch.
Also setting you up for your career in the fire service.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, so saved a lot of money being Polish that way.
Let's
You
go,
know,
brother.
It worked out.
Before we get to the end of this episode, brother, I want to ask you a question of how did you handle the stressors of these calls, like when the lieutenant lost his scout on his hand, or some of those more emotional calls? How did you handle it?
I don't think, honestly, and I've thought about this a lot since I started with you guys, I don't think I've ever really dealt with it or
Yeah.
it ever really bothered me.
Mm-hmm.
You go back and talk.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes it turns into some dark jokes and stuff.
Right.
And it's almost not being disrespectful. It's a way to cope.
That's how that's how I coped on like DOAs or homicides and stuff like that. It's just how you get through it in the sense, because you're going from that call, then we'd go to another call, then another call. And then if you get like 3 really bad calls in a row, it could really mess you up.
Unless I really wasn't that involved in calls that would affect me like that.
Yeah.
The little ones got me. I remember I did CPR on infants.
Ugh.
And I got in trouble again because used no barrier. But at the time, my first son was just born. And we ran into this house, and evidently the parent had rolled over on
Oh God.
on the baby. I remember setting him on the table, the end table in front of the TV, and doing mouth to mouth on him. He didn't make it, but I went home that day and walked upstairs into my bedroom, and my wife was laying next to our son in the bed. And she said, "How was your night?" And I lost it.
Yeah.
You know, and I said, "Can we not have him in bed with us?"
Yeah.
And of course, we did that for a couple of weeks, and then, you know, he's right back in bed with you because, you know, you're tired.
Exhausted.
You know, that was your first child, and you're just taking a beating.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, brother, for sure.
So, I think most of my stress came when I got promoted, and it's not stress that, you know, is brutal, but it's the fact of going the right way and
Mm-hmm.
and finding the addresses and remembering your job and getting your
Right.
job done right.
Right.
You know, because I've gone to calls and then driven back to the firehouse, and I don't remember driving to the call,
Right.
which freaked me out a little bit,
For sure.
you know. But a lot of talking.
Yeah.
A lot of talking. You know, when the guy had died in the academy, they had brought us down, and they brought in counselors and stuff, and they wanted you to talk. I don't want to talk.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
You know, I'll figure this out. So I guess I've been blessed with not having those events
Mm-hmm.
affect me too much.
Yeah.
You know, but you try to watch people, what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because you know how they are. You've spent enough time with them.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know, and I tell the kids too, I said, to watch what's going on around you. You know, I don't recall being younger and seeing so much suicide.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that's all about.
Yeah.
Unless I wasn't paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like quite a bit. And that's a lot to do with the guys that don't want to work in the neighborhood because, you know, we've gotten calls where people have taken that path,
Yeah.
you know, and, you know, what are you going to do?
Yeah. It's devastating.
Yeah. So you wonder why you couldn't get to these people fast enough,
Yeah.
you know, and I don't understand that. I don't know why they choose that path.
Yeah.
You know, is it an instant thing, or did you think about this?
I think they think it's something that it plagues them in a
Yeah.
sense. And then you go down the path of you feel like you're a problem to everybody and you're a burden, and it's not the case. It's not the case
Yeah.
at all. And they believe if they were off this world, they would alleviate some of that burden on their loved ones. And in reality, you just tear everyone down.
Yeah.
And you know, I talked about this in the past. I lost one of my best friends to taking his own life, and it's devastating.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking, and just like you said, I should know better. I should know better, and I should have known to check in on him and all that stuff. So,
Right.
you know, that would be my advice to everybody too. Is, you know, it's even if it's a text message, just reach out.
Yeah.
Reach out to those people if you see something off, because you said it best. Like, you guys are a family. You know that person when he blows the horn. Oh, you got a fire,
Yeah.
right? You know that person that you talk about their wife or their kids. So you will notice like a change in somebody.
Yeah. If you truly pay attention, which sometimes I pay attention too much, you know, or you're being nosy or whatever. No, I want to make sure that you're all right.
Right. Exactly.
You know,
Because you're brothers. You're a family, or
Yeah.
brother and sister, whatever it is.
Yeah. So I try to make the kids realize, you know, pay attention what's going on.
Smart.
If there's something that's bothering you, and basically it was my daughter, because, you know, I talked to her. I said, if there's something you need to talk about and you feel uncomfortable talking to me about it, write it down.
Yeah.
Write it on a piece of paper, and I will read it. And if you want me to answer you face to face, I can do that, or I will give you my thoughts back on a piece of paper.
That's a great idea, Dave.
So
That's a really good
we
idea.
try to somehow figure out a communication,
Right.
either on paper or verbally. You know.
Yeah.
So we've been pretty lucky with that.
Yeah, and that's a phenomenal idea, because to me, talking about my shooting, I think saved me in a way.
Right.
Because I wasn't afraid to talk about it. I wanted to talk about it because I felt it was my own version of therapy.
Right.
So
Right.
I think there needs to be more of that.
Right. And I think, you know, what you guys are doing here,
Oh, we appreciate that, brother.
this is just helping so much more.
Yeah, agreed.
You know. So thank you for doing this.
Well, thanks for coming on, Gary. You got anything else?
No, I can just say we can only be hopeful that somebody gets something out of this, and
Yeah.
you know, getting guys like you on, or you know, we have a couple other interviews we're doing here, guys like that can tell their stories as well.
Yeah.
We hope that reaches someone, you know. So we're very gracious for you coming on, and
You know,
doing
I
this
think we're all
with us.
connected in a way.
100%.
You know, no matter what you guys do, you know, police, fire, nursing, whatever, there's always a story to be told
100%.
that may make a difference. You know,
100%.
so I truly appreciate for the invite.
Oh, Dave, listen.
And let me talk.
You're a rock star. We would love to have you back on, brother.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get you on again.
100%. You guys, listen, check out Fire Buddies, right?
Yeah.
Check out
Project
Fire Buddies. Project Fire Buddies. Man, it's a great cause. We love it.
We're around. Yeah. You'll see. Jump on Facebook and just see the people that they interact with.
Hell yeah.
You know. So
Donate.
please.
Love it. All right, you guys, take it easy. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, share.